All right, so we're back in HTML, CSS, building websites. And if you want to check out the code that we're using, it's a GitHub goes to 11. And you can find that under repositories. We're looking for the HTML, CSS bootcamp repository. That's the one we're working out of. And if you want to follow me, it's Twitter, Todd McLeod. And I'm always tweeting about front-end and back-end web development, among other things. And you can check that out right there. So take a look at it. We're going to do a little bit of review of what we've been looking at and then see what's coming. We're about halfway through our course outline. The course outline, if you want to access the course outline, you can get to the course outline. I thought I had a link up to that right here. Follow Todd McLeod, HTML, CSS, promo, files. What is the link to the course outline? It's in our course. So let me go to our course and I can get you the link to that. So there's the course outline, the link to the course outline for the outline that we're using in this class. All right, layout fundamentals, box model, FlexBox. Y'all did FlexBox Froggy. Let me see a show of hands. Nathan said he did it. Robert did it. Ann? No, not FlexBox Froggy yet. Dominic, Steve? Huh? Halfway?
I think I might have missed
Yeah, you missed that. And what about yourself, Andrew?
I was sick that day.
Okay, cool. Did you catch those videos online with FlexBox Froggy? All right, cool. So check that out. And if you want, we could go over that. Show of hands, who wants more time on FlexBox? Teresa? The rest of you all are feeling pretty comfortable with it? Keep rolling. All right, so we've got here layout, resources, and review. Reminder of the box model. We did this last week. And then we did layout with FlexBox. And we saw CSS tricks FlexBox. And it's really about a flex container and flex items. And the first children are the flex items. But deeper children aren't flex items, right? Nested within the hierarchy of the DOM. That all makes sense. Anybody have questions about those definitions? And when we have FlexBox, we make a container, right? Just any element that contains other elements. That container becomes the flex container. And how do we do that? You tell me. What do we do it with? How do we make something a flex container? What CSS declaration in the rule set, the declaration block? Which declaration do we use? Which properties and values?
Display flex.
Display flex makes it a flex container. And then if we set flex direction to row, right, and flex wrap to no wrap, the primary axis is what?
Horizontal.
So since flex direction's row, the primary axis is horizontal. And if the primary axis is horizontal, which one is going to center along the primary axis? Justify content or align items? Which one works on the primary axis?
Justify content.
Justify content works along the primary axis. So if we wanted to center something horizontal, flex direction's row, we use justify content center. Or we could also do space between or space around, right? If we want to move things left and right.
Flex start, flex end.
Flex start, flex end. And then we could also do align items, which basically works like justify content except for it's on the cross axes, right? Show of hands, how many people that goes ding, ding, ding in your head and it's all familiar? Nathan, Steve, Dominic, Ann, Andrew, Robert, and Teresa has to catch up. Cool. All right, well, that's all good. And that's really a big deal using FlexBox and being able to get all that. And so there we have all the container properties and item properties. So the item properties, we looked at Align-Self. I think we saw Align-Self. So if one thing is align items, we could take, if all of the elements on the cross axes are aligned a certain way, we could take one item and align self it the other way, or in some other direction. So that's align self. Flex basis. How many people do not know flex basis? All right. So flex basis is like the starting size of an item, and so you could give it a starting size. That's your flex basis. It's the starting size of an element. That's a flex child. So we're talking about item properties, flex items here. And then we have flex, grow, and shrink, which are kind of counterparts to each other. And you could say, hey, this is going to grow in a proportion. Flex grow will be 2 for this element, and flex grow will be 1 for that one. So one that's 2 is going to grow twice as much as the one that's 1 as you move beyond the basis. Okay, so as they grow, as they flex, the extent to which they flex depends upon the setting that you put in there. And then a shrink kind of works in the opposite direction. How much do you want it to shrink relative to others? So we have flex basis, flex grow, flex shrink, and basis, grow, shrink, and align self. And then order, you could change the order. So you could change the order of any of the items. Those get a little tricky to play with, and it just takes some time to get used to them. And so if we look at like some of these, we could come down here and just look at some of the files. We have 031 FlexBox, 031 FlexBox right there. And if we come in and look at the items, so here are some examples of Align-Self. So these guys are all, we did align items. So when you look at this, if align items is setting the vertical axes so that we could then apply align self to 3, then what is flex direction? On the
self is applied to 1, 2, and 4.
It's applied to all of them, but then the align self is applied to 3. Sorry. And align items is applied to all of them. And align self for 3 overwrites it.
Then align items would be flex start. If 3 of them are align items, so override it.
No, one of them is overwriting.
Oh, then it's flex in.
Yeah, flex in. And which what's flex direction on the container?
Column.
So align items works on the cross axes. Well, and the cross axes in this case, if align items is working on it, is vertical, which means the primary axis is horizontal, so it would be flex direction is row. But that's the challenge, right? To think it through and see how it's all working. So let's just look at that analysis and see if that made sense. Maybe it was set up in a different way, but that's just talking it through, and I haven't looked at this code for a couple of months since I wrote it. And here we have body display flex, and flex flow, which is shorthand for flex direction, which is row, and flex wrap, which is wrap. Andrew, did you want to move? I think it's a good idea if you move. Come on up and join us.
I will.
All right, cool. And then we have align items flex in, which puts them all on the flex in. And then deviate is align self, flex start. Right? So deviate was applied to 3. So that's align self, overwrites align items. Hello, Alex. Cool? Anybody have questions about that? So this is a long class. I think that's part of what's hard for people. Right? 'Cause some people have been struggling. And one of the deals is that is we had a choice as a department. So to get through and learn how to do web stuff, it used to be a 2-year process. And then that was hard for students. And I got to take 2 years to get through all that. All right? And so then we thought, well, look at this model that Bitwise is doing where they get people through quickly, but they're intense classes. Maybe we could try that out. So we took 4 classes, which take 2 years to do, a semester of class. You got to do A before B and B before C and C through before D, 80 before 85, right? And get this stuff before maybe you take 90 or 94 or whatever. And we said, well, let's just do those in 9 weeks instead. And instead of them lasting 2.5 hours of class, it'll last 5 hours of class. Since it's going in half as much time, we got to go twice as long. So it's a long class. So you all let me know what we can do to make it better. But it's just a long class. There's no other way to cut it. And if it's not working for you, give us that feedback. Maybe we'll switch it back to the 2-year deal. All right, so do you want to try this or do you want me to keep rolling? How many want to try it? Raise your hand. All right, cool. Let's play with Align-Self. So recreate this example right here.